it's like, I think one of the things that a lot of people, immediately I get put into this box, which, listen, it's not a horrible box to get put into, but everyone's like, the inspirational dude, the positive dude, like, help us, uplift us and pick us up and tell us life is okay and life is going to be great. And I'm like, listen, I could do that. However, don't box me into like I'm just a Tony Robbins dude. Like, I got a personality, right? Like, I have these other components to me too. Like, I have a very dark sense of humor.
Yeah, you don't say anything. We're gonna talk about this. I was thinking about it all day. I was like, he's got, it's like him being in the military. It's got to be somewhat.
He's like a fireman.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, is that a burn joke?
Wow. There's the dark humor.
Oh, awesome. That was great.
His face is so red
I'm
right now.
so red right now.
So is mine.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Dude.
POG.
Oh, I'm so excited. All right, let's start.
I actually
I think we just started.
You already started?
I want to say real quick.
I had no idea.
Yeah, no, this is great. I think that's the best way we could have started. So JR, just to let you know, we normally start our episodes. Jamie like hits record without us knowing, and we're talking. And so it's just kind of how it rolls. But for everybody listening, welcome back to the Jabs podcast. John, Jamie, and Stipe here. We are joined by actor, Dancing with the Stars winner, author, Army veteran, laundry list, best-selling author. Yeah, everything, laundry list of stuff. You've accomplished more than me and Jamie combined, I think. Well, and Stipe. So J.R. Martinez, everybody.
Just don't fact check it. That's it. Just don't fact check it. It's all just like, what looks good? What is some random stuff that I can throw in now that nobody will actually like go and do the work and like find out about?
Wikipedia doesn't need to be fact checked. Wikipedia is always right.
Real quick question. So funny thing about Wikipedia, I forget what fight. It was my second UFC fight. Someone thought it'd be funny, and they put my name as Bill Johnson. So everyone thought my real name was Bill Johnson, and they didn't think my name was Steve because on Wikipedia, God forbid, Wikipedia, it's true. One of my friends.
I got a phone call yelling at me saying it was me, and I didn't do it.
I was pissed. Because then everyone started like, they're like, "What the fuck? You lied to us? Like, you're not Croatian?" I'm like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" And then someone else, one of my other buddies, I lied to him when I was a kid. I told him my mom used to wrestle alligators, and he believed me, and so he actually went on my Wikipedia and
oh my God, that's amazing.
Well, can't like anybody go on Wikipedia and like edit it?
Yep.
Isn't that? Yep. Which I don't know if we should like say that like publicly, because then I think if you have a Wikipedia, like if Jamie and John, if you guys have one, then it's going to be all sorts of edited after this podcast comes out. Even if you don't, someone's going to create something with the most like random stuff in there. So I don't know if we should like publicly say that.
I think a Jabs podcast Wikipedia page created strictly by the listeners is a great idea.
I think it's a great idea.
So it's hilarious. Like you talk about Stipe, like, talking about somebody change your name, and when you told them who you actually were, they didn't believe you. It reminds me of, so one of the benefits of being burned is when I came out of my, not to get like really heavy and serious about it, but when I came out of my coma at the age of 19 and I saw my face and my body, I was like, and I was like, okay. And then I started coming out on the other side of it. I was like, well, there's one positive thing to this. No one will ever come up to me and say, yo, you look like somebody I know. Like that's never gonna freaking happen, right? Like who walks down the street looking like me, right? And so I kind of like joked about that and went with it. And then fast forward, this is after like I did some acting and dancing. I lived in LA at one point, and I remember it was Easter weekend. And I was with my wife and our daughter, and I think my wife's like childhood friend was in town. And so we're leaving this restaurant, walking to the car, and this dude just like rolls up, like we've been like best friends forever, puts his arm around me, which is already like, hey, yo, personal space. He puts his arm around me. I did this. I do one of these, like, yo, who is this dude? And he's like, come on, man, I know who you are. And I was like, I was looking at him like this, and I was like, okay. Like, I was like, okay, like now what? And he's like, you're Seal, right? You're Seal.
Oh my God.
Yes. No.
Please,
dude,
tell me you took a picture with him. Like, you should have just handed it up.
No, dude. Like, so check this out. So I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, you're Seal. And I'm like, no, I'm not Seal, man. And he's like, dude, I'm not going to tell anybody. And he's like, it's good. It's like, I won't tell anybody, like, whatever. So I was like, okay, fine, I'm Seal. So he left and I was like, okay, that was easy. So check this out. So all of a sudden this dude starts something. He starts something where people keep coming out to me like, hey, you're Seal, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And people are like, yes, you are. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I just start going with it. Every time someone would come up to me like, you're Seal, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, all right, cool. And they like dip, right? So that was sort of my way of getting rid of that because people did not believe me. Fast forward to, I don't know, 2014, 15. I was working on this show, and then a couple of the people, we went out to a bar in LA. So we're at this bar, one of the co-stars, she's standing next to me. This dude walks up to her, hands her, first of all, like we're talking about like 2000, like I said, 14, 15, walks up to her, hands her an actual camera, not an iPhone or not a smartphone, an actual camera, hands it to her, has been drinking a little bit, hands it to her and says to her, can you take a picture of me and your boyfriend Seal? There's two things immediately off the bat. One, she's like, he's not my boyfriend. Two, he's not Seal. What are you talking about? And so she looks at me and I look at her and I'm like, just take the picture. Just take the picture. Like he's going to walk away right after the picture's taken. She's like, okay, fine. He's too tipsy to try to explain this to this dude. Right. So we pose, we take the picture. I'm thinking, all right, cool. Peace, deuces. Cause that's usually how it works. Homeboy literally backfires on me. He turns and faces me. He puts both hands on my shoulders and he literally looks me deep into my eyes. And he's like, I grew up in the Midwest and growing up, I felt so out of place. And the only thing that got me through was your music. And I'm like, shit.
You sound like you're looking like the song.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, please don't start talking about all his music and all this, like, cause I only know one song and I don't even know the whole song. I just know that. That's all I know. That's all I know. So I'm like, oh shit. So my mind is racing. I'm like, oh, right. It's like, where's the exit? Where's the exit? Where's the exit? Like my mind's racing. And he's like, and I love all your music, but that one song, and I'm like, please let it be Kissed by a Rose. Please let it be Kissed by. And he starts singing some other song I've never heard before. But because I'm so deep in this lie, and this dude just spilled his heart out to me, how I saved his life or whatever I did for him, I was like, I gotta go with it. I can't break this dude's heart now and be like, dude, it's not me. I'm sorry, dude. It's not me. I'm just a burn dude. I'm sorry. Like I don't have 75 kids. Like, I'm sorry, dude. So I literally watch him as he's singing and I'm like, like following his mouth as he's singing whatever song he's singing, just because I was so deep in the lie. And then I said to him, I was like, yeah. I remember where I was when I wrote that song. Like, and my friend's like, what the hell is going on right now? What are we witnessing? This dude like completely lie. And so literally I just kept going with it. And then finally dude was like, it's so nice to meet you. And as soon as he left, I looked at my friend. I was like, I'm getting out of here, because he's going to go to his friends and, he's going to push that play button when he goes to the camera and like shows the photos, and he's going to show his friends and they're going to be like, dude, that's not Seal. And then he's going to come looking for me and they're going to try to kick Seal's ass. And, but it's like
somehow it fires on actual Seal. Like somehow he becomes
you're a dick.
Well, I always thought it would be hilarious if I like wrote like a skit and where this happens, right? I keep telling people I'm Seal just to get people off my back, and then Seal gets wind of it and he all of a sudden is like, who's this dude messing up my reputation? And so then all of a sudden one day people come up to him and they're like, you're J.R. Martinez, and he does like the wildest thing ever just to mess up my like reputation too. I was like, that would be so dope, but I don't know if Seal has that kind of personality. I don't know. I have to find somebody.
Well, doesn't he have an accent as well, doesn't he? He's from another country.
Yeah, I don't know where he's from, but yes, he does.
That's one thing too, is when they talk to you, like, you speak great English. Like if you know anything about Seal, I'm pretty sure he has an accent.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. If you're that big of a fan of Seal that he got you through all these hard times.
I actually talk about fans knowing. So I had this one, it was Dallas. We were going back home after I fought JDS. I'm like hobbling because like he like crushed my leg and my leg like blew open. And this girl walked up to me with her boyfriend. She's like, "Oh my God, Stipe. I'm the biggest fan." And my wife's like, haha, that's cute. And I just like hit my wife. I'm like, shut up, just go with it. I'm like, thanks, appreciate it. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, Okay, awesome. Next, maybe just
at least she had the right person though.
Like, this is true.
That is, yeah.
I mean,
she didn't call you a crow cop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
well, that really doesn't happen much.
No,
Billy.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. Right. I mean, have you ever happened to you like when we went out with me?
With where I've seen them call you the wrong name?
Yeah.
I've heard them butcher your name. Your last name gets
I can't even say it. I can't even say it.
I just think I listen to like what your wife says, and
she's the best because she gets fired up.
Yeah, I just kind of go off what she says because then if I'm not rocking the boat with the missus, then I'm not in trouble.
You're not. Yeah, you're not in.
Stipe
you're not invited to dinner.
Yeah, Stipe and I both worked with a guy that for 10 years called him the wrong name.
Which he still does. I always walks in. He, you know what's funny about that dude? I love that he was so quiet, and I don't know, like in the last like 2 years, man, he just like blossomed.
Because I left.
Probably you're probably right. A lot of people are scared of you, but every time he walks in, he's like, "Hey, Stipe." I'm like, "What's up, Big Dick Wayne?" He loves it, dude. I don't know. He loves it, dude. He's like, so I made this like rumor up that you got this just ginormous dong, which I don't know if he does or not, but I don't know if people are starting to believe it or not. So.
Why don't you make that rumor up about me?
So
let's start his Wikipedia page about that.
Big Wayne. JR, I just want to get into, so for anybody that's listening, Stipe did your podcast. Is that kind of how you guys made contact with each other? Like how you met?
Yep. So like, obviously, I mean, I know about, his resume and what he's done and what he's still doing and in the space that he's in. But for me, I think that's cool. We could talk about that all day. But what was really dope for me to have him on my pod is, my podcast's name is called Rebirth, and it's all about this notion of, and I tell people that when I was injured, a lot of veterans will tell you this, that when they're injured, they refer to that day as their alive day. But I actually call it my rebirth because I truly believe parts of me died on the day that I was injured and other parts of me were born. However, I think all of us experience rebirths over the course of our lives, right? Meaning like chapters of our lives, phases of our lives, parts of our identities die because, just life, right? Like things end and, your roles change. And so for me, like I have this podcast called Rebirth because I'm curious about like, we can focus on what Stipe's done, in Octagon and all that stuff. But for me, it's like, it's cool that he still is, the volunteer, and he's still doing.
I get paid.
Oh, sorry. Okay, he gets paid.
I'm trying to get full time.
He's like, I work for a living. But like that to me is really cool because he doesn't have to do that, right? Like, and I think it's cool and it's noble to give back to your community. And so for me, it was like, I want to be able to learn about how people got tapped into what I believe that their purpose is, right? What helps shape their identity, become who they are today? What rebirths did they have to experience, or multiple rebirths, right? In some cases. So for me, it was like, let me rap with this dude, and see what his story is, see what his upbringing is like. And it was a cool conversation, man. It was, it was just one of those things that, you get to like learn about somebody outside of what you see on TV or what you see on the internet or read about them on the Wikipedia page.
Well, a couple of things on that, JR. So my rebirth is actually when I had my children, just because, like, I mean, there's probably a ton more. I feel like I could have come with something strong, but I think that was the strongest just because, like I had nothing to like really care about more. I was more selfish, if that makes sense. Like worrying about me and my wife. But then like, now it's like, I'm not trying to be funny. It's like me and my wife are roommates because like, our focus is on our children. Like that's all we care about in a funny way, because like we love each other, but I gotta be a man.
You gotta survive.
Exactly.
You're surviving right now.
It's been rough, just trying to do it. It's getting better, and just but that was my rebirth. I just feel like I needed to step up and be more of a man, because like, dude, when we didn't have kids, we were dude.
That's
it was the greatest times ever. Off till 5 a.m, like drinking, going to Denny's. Like it was great. I loved it. Like, now it's like takes us 45 minutes to an hour to get out of the house because I forgot diapers or my daughter crapped her pants. By the way, it's going great.
Good.
Out of nowhere. Like what I tell you, 1 week.
Yeah.
She's in the game. So my daughter with potty training, she started pooping better on the toilet now. So
nice. And it's 1 week. 1 week.
Well, she's been doing it. Well, no, she's been trying, but she's just scared. But then I told him 1 week she's gonna start doing it, and Now she's constant.
Dude, I love it, dude. I tell you, so my daughter, my daughter that's 9 years old, dude, I potty trained her. Like, and it like, and it was just like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Right. I was just like, here you go. Here's like the little Elmo toilet and then like the Elmo like thing or whatever. Like, okay, play the music and, you know, do your thing. And then I told my wife, I was like, yeah, I just let her run around naked, you know, and then like follow her with a little seat. And then like every 2 hours, or I think an hour and a half or whatever, like sit down. But it's funny because like, that's where we connected, because obviously Mateo, right? Is it Mateo?
Mateo, yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, I have a 3-month-old and so I have a 9-month-old daughter and a 3-month-old son. And dude, I mean, polar opposite these two are. Like my daughter, I had a moment. So I got lured into coaching my daughter's softball team. And my daughter's she's like a pretty good athlete, right? And so she, you know, she's good. And so they kind of talked me into it. They gave me the day after my son is born, they called me. They're like, hey, so we don't have anybody. Would you mind coaching? I'm like, dude, 24 hours ago, I just brought a child into this world and you want me to take on 10, 12 other kids? I don't know if I could do that right now. So luckily I pulled a friend in and we did it. And so we were like co-coaching or whatever. But I had like this moment where my daughter's a pitcher and it's her first year pitching. And in the game, there was like a heated game. It was back and forth and she's pitching and she's kind of struggling a little bit on the mound. And, you know, I'm like all like tense, like, you know, like I think I'm in the World Series over here, like, you know, studying, analyzing, hey, you know, spitting all, you know, I really like owning this shit. And apparently I said to her, I was like, come on, girl, like get us out of this inning because you're hurting the team. Now, so like, you know, we get out of the inning, game's over, we win the game. All the girls huddle up, whatever, give them a little pep talk, blah, blah, blah. They all dismiss. Like my daughter comes up to me, tugs me on the shirt. I come over, I'm like, what's up? She's like, can I talk to you? And I'm like, yeah. Pulls me over to the side. She's like, I just want you to know, you know, that really offended me. That really bothered me, what you said about me hurting my team and, you know, this and that. She's like, and I'm like, who am I talking to right now? Like, how are you so freaking mature? Like,
I give her credit for doing that, going out of her way and not doing it in front of anyone. She pulled you aside. That's you. That's like,
I was like, yo, you were so freaking mature. Like, I would have been on the mound and I would have looked at my coach and be like, yo, stay in your lane, coach. Stay in your lane. Let me do my thing. I'm the one that's on the mound right now. You're getting in my head. Stay over there, coach. Like my daughter's like, can we schedule some time to have a conversation related to the feelings that I feel right now? But and I'm just like, my daughter is so freaking mature. And then I got this 3-month-old dude up in the house and he's like, yo, I'm going to piss. I'm going to throw up on you. I'm going to nap for 10 minutes. And I need you to like, dude, what you just did. My wife and I do that all the time.
Right before we started, he's a constant puker.
You got to check.
I got on a virtual the other day.
I hear it. Yeah. I'm like,
I got on a virtual the other day and literally had something right here on like the collar of my shirt. And I was like, you son of a bitch, man. Like, hey, how'd you sniped me, dude? How'd you get me? Sometimes you only got it right here. Like, damn, you're skilled. Right. But yeah, like, I mean, you know, it's funny because my best friend is 17 years older than me. And when I was 24 years old, so he was 41, and I was like reckless, man. I was drinking. I was mad. I was angry at the world. I'd gotten out of the hospital and I was using alcohol to cope. You know, luckily I didn't cross over into anything else, but I was just using alcohol to cope. And when I tell people I'm lucky to be here today, I'm not just referring to like surviving Iraq, dude. I did some dumb shit. Like, I mean, I go out drinking with friends and I'd still drive. And I mean, thank God I didn't hurt anybody. Forget me, hurt anybody else. But I did some dumb stuff. And I was just in a very dark place in my life. And it was my best friend who was 41 at the time that one day just sort of snatched me up, 6'5", 285 pounds, and sat me in the passenger seat of his car. And he's like, dude, you need to cry. And I was like, what? He's like, you got to cry. And I was like, I'm going to cry about nothing. He's like, man, you're hurting emotionally and mentally. So literally he has been, I mean, that conversation, we end up having like this deep conversation about life and things that bothered me and blah, blah, blah. my life turned around for real. It's all of a sudden pivoted. And it's just crazy. He has been a part of my, like our friendship for the last 17 years. We met in 2004, 17 years, a year after I was injured, we met, and he's been a part of my journey. So he always laughs when he's like, I'm in this stage of life right now where I'm like, oh, he's like, calls me like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm like picking up this one girl. I'm jumping at this other girl. Like, I'm going here. I got to bring some cookies to like the team. I got to do this. I got to do that. Oh, I'm checking out. Oh, the refrigerator, like the power, like it went out, like it surged. Like, I don't know what's going on, like in the fridge, and like, and then my landscaping. And he's like, dude, it's so hilarious to hear you talk about like all this stuff now, because 15 years ago, when I told you this is what I was doing with my kids, my daughter, you were like, I'm going out to party. I'm going out to drink. I'm going out to have a good time. And now look at you. You're in that same stage of life, but I freaking love it, man. Yesterday after practice, I pull up to the light and there's one of the dads, his daughter's on the team, and he got the SUV and I have an SUV. And I was like, yo, you want to run him? You want to run them? Let's go. You're forward against my GMC. Let's run them, man. Come on, like we're light to light. Let's go. And it's just like that's just where we're at right now. But honestly, man, I relate to you when you say that your kids are the most meaningful thing, because I mean, it's special, man. I literally had to put my tail between my legs the other day with my daughter. I sort of like, I had this, jacked up little bit of a childhood or whatever. And I sort of projected some of the patterns and behaviors onto my daughter. And I had to go and apologize to her. And I'm like, hey, that's not cool. I'm sorry, whatever. And that's one of the biggest things as a man, as a father, as a husband, that I've had to learn how to do is apologize, to tell somebody, especially a kid, I'm sorry, because I messed up. But also then to receive an apology, right? There's some psych shit in that of like someone comes to you to apologize. Yeah. Normally people would apologize and they're like, whatever, dude, whatever, like get out of my face, whatever. And now I'm like, you apologize and I'm like, hey man, it's cool. I receive it. You're all good. And it's like, who is this dude that's like all of a sudden like Mr. Rogers now, living his life like Mr. Rogers?
When you yell at your daughter and you're like, I'm sorry, and like, I'm sorry too, you're like, damn it, like, why'd you say that? Like, why'd you fuck with me? Like, you have nothing to be sorry about, And then I start thinking in my mind, like, did I do something wrong as a parent? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't
know. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have kids, JR. So like, but correct me if I'm wrong though. Like, I think our generation, our parents or adults in general, not even just parents, but like, I don't think they apologize to us as kids.
No. Well, we probably deserve it though.
Sorry if I said that. I don't know if I'm supposed
no, but I'm
say that.
You're fine.
You can say whatever you want.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Fuck shit, cockballs.
No, but my point being, I don't think our parents ever really apologize, or even adults, just adults to kids. Though. Yeah, well,
hell no.
But there was never like, oh, hey, I was wrong. Like I screwed up. That's my bad. Like, no, it was just like, you just assumed you were wrong, even though, and then as a kid, you were just like, I knew I was right there, but like, you never got that. Like,
it took me a while. It took me a while as a father, because I grew up in that same household. Father was ex-military, all that very strict household. There was never an apology involved. I was always wrong. So now mine are 10 and 12. And listen, man, I apologize. I am constantly like, I catch myself, my temper, whatever it might be. And I'm telling them like, you know what? I shouldn't have acted like that. I do apologize. I also don't want my daughter to ever think it's okay for anybody to treat somebody like that. That's really important to me. So,
but you're right, man. Like my mom never apologized. And I can't tell you how many times I was like, nah, I think I'm right on that one. But I mean, my mom's 4'11", man. And even though like, like 4'11", you can't like 4'11".
Dude, they have like superhuman strength.
And Latina, huh?
Like I have a 4'11" grandma. She was superhuman strength. She really ripped me off of bed one time by my ear. Dude, my mom could like make me, I'm 5'9", right? Like I'm massive to her. I'm massive, but like she can make me fold like publicly in a place. Like, I mean, it's like you think she just hit me in the perfect spot. Like she just hit me in the temple. She never did, but she would just like somehow get me to like drop in a store in a public place. My mom is like, she's like a grenade.
right? Like, hear me out. Like, so let's just say, for example, like you got a grenade, like if you've held a grenade, like, or if you've seen one on TV, you're like, oh, people can hold it in their hand. And you're like, oh, this thing's so little. Like, what is this thing really going to do? But like a grenade, you pull a pin, you got like 3 seconds, man, before that thing goes off and it does some damage. And I can tell you, that's my mom. My mom is so little, compact, a little grenade. You can hold her and you're like, oh, you're so cute. But the difference is my mom doesn't give you 3 seconds because she's Latina, right? She's Hispanic. So she only gives you like a second and then she freaking goes off, man. That's my mom. But she would always be like argue with me about something. I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. But God forbid if I kept arguing, she would jack me up because I also grew up in that era where she kicked my ass. She whooped my ass. I mean, the kids today would literally call what I endured literally like a prison camp. Yeah. Like I was in a prison camp. Like
I feel Jay, I feel your pain because my family's from Europe, so the old school European way. Like my dad's like his opinion mattered and that was it. So like it was crazy. But like with my mom, we call my mom Stone Cold Kathy because she's like, you cross her, dude, she's done with you. She's like, I don't care. Like I want nothing to do with you. And like she would, dude, she's I'll never forget, like she used to destroy me as a kid and she had every right to. And I'll never forget the one day we're eating lunch. I was like 25, 26, and we're eating lunch at her house. And she's like, I raised you wrong. I'm like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, she went to Catholic school. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I beat you pretty bad as a kid. I go, Mom. She goes, what? I go, I deserved every ounce then. She eating lunch. She was like, she goes, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Never mind. I was like, thanks, Mom. But I mean, that's the thing who made me what I am today.
Well, you reassured her of all her choices.
Dude, she had every right to beat me. Like I remember one time she beat me with a wooden spoon, and I was laughing. It broke. She looked at me and she was, all right, motherfucker. Like that look, like, you want to play that game? She walked back to the kitchen and got the metal one, and then destroyed me.
You weren't laughing anymore.
No, I was crying.
I never got the wooden spoon. I got the threat of the wooden spoon.
You're younger.
Sheba. We have a thing called Sheba.
You're a millennial.
I don't know what's scary though. I feel like the threat is almost scarier because you don't know what they're capable of. Like, right? Like my mom whooped my ass with the belt. She found a rope and she whooped my. I mean, with a rope. She found a rope.
They go those branches. We call them switches, but we call them
switches. Yeah. Oh my God. Like, I mean, if you hear me tell the story, she literally cut down a whole oak tree and beat me with it. That's the way I like. By the time it gets like the stories told multiple times, it's like the massive tree would like fell on me. But my mom used to do so much, and I just think to myself, like, if she just threatened me, I think I would be probably even more terrified. Because I'm like, I don't even know what the outcome could be. I might die because like my mom used to always say, she's like, I brought you into this world. I'll take you out. Yeah. And the way she said it, dude, I'll take you out. Like, it was like, she could be a voiceover actor, right? Like she's like, oh, that was good. That was good. Can you do that again? I was like, so I don't know, man. Like I got a few scars, but I think I'd rather have the scars and know what it's like versus the threat of like because then it's like they're like mind fucking you all the time. Oh, yeah. They're like literally like, oh shit. Like is today the day? Yeah. Is today the day where I lose my legs? Like what happens?
Yeah. Well, right? They're pissed at you and they'll be nice. Like, oh, am I out of the clear? And then all of a sudden, every time something happens, and then boom, snaps. Like you grab the plate wrong or something, and then just it triggers them. And then back to square one. And I never forget one time, like I knew my mom, everything she would say. She's like, you can't be doing that. And I'm like in my mind talking, laughing. And the one thing, just like me, is pet peeve is do not roll your eyes. I'm gonna go nuts or a shoe. And I never forget, I rolled my eyes one time and I never forget, dude, I watched her. She's like, oh, okay. And she wound up and she was about to slap me across the face. And I straight did like a Matrix. I felt the breeze of her hand go over my hand and I ran out the house and come back for a couple hours. And then I came back and, like one thing she did teach me though, was like, if I did something wrong and we got in an argument, like we would both walk away at one point and then we'd come back and we sit down and talk about it. Like,
oh, that's cool.
That's one thing I've learned a lot from her is like, if this is a problem, I try to talk about it. Like, I mean, I just, we break
that's apart. Important with your wife.
Get your room. Yeah.
Super important with the wife.
Super important with the wife.
Her problem with that is though, like we walk away and come back and she's like, what happened in 2013? I'm like, I wasn't even with you. I wasn't even with you. What are you talking about? Like, you with that
That's
girl.
the point.
Like, what girl?
That's the point. What were you doing in 2013? Because we could have been together if you weren't doing whatever you were doing in 2013.
Right? It's crazy.
It's like, wait, how is this my fault now? All of a sudden, what I do, right? Like,
I'm the villain. Right? Can't win.
My wife is right over there. And
tell her thank you for getting me on. Love you. That's what I say.
Arguing last night, and I was like, I should have like just walked away, just let it be. Instead, this morning I had to come to her and be like, I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry. Like, I should have walked away. I didn't mean that. And like shit. So like all of us can learn a lesson from that.
Mm-hmm.
That's like great.
It's like the disadvantage of like doing all this shit from your house is like they can hear everything. She's probably like out there like, what? What'd you say about me?
She's outside waiting for you.
Yeah.
You done? Okay.
All of a sudden she has like a little like toy grenade. I'm like, is that real? Like, it's like all of a sudden like messing with my head. Oh,
that's fantastic, man. So we were actually in the beginning of the episode, we were talking about like, you being in the military and everything. And we felt like me and Jamie were talking that they're kind of both not the same, but like just the unity, the way the guys act around each other. I think it's kind of like the same, just bust each other's balls.
Fire, the
dark humor and all that stuff.
Yeah, the fire service is paramilitary. So it's, that's where it's bred from. So
it really is, man. And I think that's why you see a lot of service members when they get out of the military, right? Yeah. They go into law enforcement or firefighter, right? Because there's two reasons. One, the camaraderie, right? Like, but then also two, there's the element of service, right? That's what they love in the military. They love giving back. They love serving. They love being a part of something bigger than themselves, contributing. So like when you all of a sudden are a part of, a sort of an institution like that, you're giving back, right? You're a part of something. And then there's busting each other's balls and giving each other shit, right? My wife actually said that she's like, I always thought it'd be great to marry like a fireman. And I was like, well, you kind of did. I mean, you kind of manifested that one. Good on you, girl. Good on you. And I was like, what other powers do you have? But I was like, but for real, why did you want to marry a fireman? She's like, well, because I always thought it would be cool. Like they go away for like 2 or 3 days and then, they're gone at the fire station and then they come back and they're there for a couple of days and then they're gone again. And I was like, oh, but that's kind of like the life I have now. Like I'm gone for like a week at a time, a week and a half at a time. Like it's starting to pick back up for me traveling wise. But then I'm like, but that doesn't make sense because then she complains. Like, then you're like, you're gone, you're not here. And I'm like, well, which one is it? Because you wanted to marry someone that was at the fire station for like 2 or 3 days or a week, whatever. And now that when I am gone, now you're mad that I'm gone and I'm not here.
No win.
Like,
no win.
God, you can't win. You just gotta just walk away. You just gotta walk away. But it is true, man. Like I mean, yeah, that's why you see a lot of these dudes that get out and drop into that because it's just natural and organic, and it sort of helps that void, that transition, that awkwardness of being in sort of like what we call the civilian world. Yeah. Forget the whole putting a suit and tie on and corporate stuff and people not understanding or not taking the time to understand. Right. I mean, that's the challenge is like a lot of these vets, man, they're coming home. And I'll tell you what, everybody can sit here and have an opinion about Afghanistan and the war ending there. And that's fine. That's a different discussion. But for me, I'm like, we got to stop focusing on, how we exited and how this and how that. I understand lives were lost and that's affected. We got to start paying attention because the suicide rate before Afghanistan ended was already 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. A lot of my boys that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, every time they would come home from a deployment, they would literally say to me like, dude, I'm just hanging on until the next deployment in 6 months, in 8 months, and in a year from now, because I'm just surviving the civilian world. I'm doing whatever I got to do just to go through the motions because I can't wait to go back. But because that's what we do. We look for distraction as human beings, right? It's easier for us to go back into that environment and just continuously be exposed to it. But now with these dudes not having to go back to Afghanistan, go back to Iraq, they're going to be home. And you're going to start seeing mental health. And unfortunately, a lot of the suicide rate is going to jump exponentially. And I think that we all have to pivot and pay attention and figure out how do we help combat this? Because it literally is going to take all of us, whether you wore the uniform or not. because it's a big conversation that we have to have.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because they're hanging on to, like, for that next deployment or that next, trip there because they like the structure and the organization of it all, and that's what they gravitate towards? Or is it because the camaraderie, or because of the things they've seen? Like, what do you think causes?
So I think there's definitely the camaraderie component of it, right? I don't know about the structure so much. It's definitely the camaraderie. It's the bond. Listen, what I asked when I came out of my coma is no different than hundreds and thousands of troops have asked before me and after I was injured. When can I go back, and how are the rest of the guys? Because I got to finish my time with my guys, right? Like that was the terminology. I was no different. How are the guys that were in the Humvee with me? They're alive. Okay, cool. All right. So when can I get out of here? And when can I go back? Because I got to finish my time with the guys. And I loved being in that environment. So I think the camaraderie is so important, but it's also human nature, right? When we got some stuff going on in our hearts and our minds, naturally, what do? We look for distraction. We naturally look for something else to kind of like take our attention off of it, so we don't have to talk about it, because we're not taught to be vulnerable. We're not taught to talk. That environment, unfortunately, does not support, hey, you feeling a little off today? It's all right. Take the day. No, there's none of that. When you're in combat, like, you got to like just push it down, oppress it, and then drive on. Right. And then God forbid you bring it up, and all of a sudden you're sent to, to visit a psychiatrist or whatever. Now guys are afraid that that's going to reflect on their record. They're going to be kicked. They're going to be taken off the front lines. They're going to be judged by their guys. They're going to feel like they let guys down. There's all the psychological stuff that's involved in it. So I think, like, one of my best friends, we joined the military. We met in basic training. He did 19 and a half years. He just got out. But he was one of the guys that always told me, he's like, dude, I'm better off overseas. I'm better off over there, because when I'm home, I have to figure out how to function. When I'm home, I have to pay attention to my feelings and my emotions. And I don't like that, because I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means today I'm going to drink. I don't know if that, in his case, he got involved in drugs, and substance abuse was something that he was still doing when he was stateside. So I think it's just it's a combination of camaraderie, but it's also a combination of guys just looking at, hey, that's an easy out for me, not to have to talk about anything, not have to deal with, honestly, the wife, the kids, that I don't understand the routine. And the wife had a routine going on with the kids. And, instead of me trying to figure that shit out, like, just send me back over there. I can function over there. I know how to operate in that system. But they don't have that anymore. There's no Afghanistan. There's no Iraq. And there's now home life. And I feel
like a lot of that too is like, sorry to interrupt, but like, I feel like a lot of that too, when you come back home, I feel like, like talking about going to your kids, trying to, with their schedule, you're trying to like go with everything. But the problem is, like, the reason you want to go back is because you want to fail them. Feel like if you do it wrong or something, you want to fail them. Like I feel like I'm not, listen, my boat is nowhere near what you have done, like nowhere near. But like, I always joke around after every fight, even since my first fight, UFC 136, I'm like, man, I'm going to retire. I come home, and then a week goes by, and then boom, I'm going to go back. And because I love the team. I love, it's a team, it's a team, but like, it's individual, but there's a team, and I love hanging out. Just, it's like high school, we sit there like, oh, how was your day? Oh man, crazy. With the weekend, we got, what I mean? Just to hear it, just to get away, to let loose, and just kind of get away the demons. And, like my wife always tells me, she's like, there's days where you went to the gym and you were just like, you're just pissed. And then you come out and you were just like a new man. You were happy and just, cause I'm so, like you said, you're so used to it and accustomed to it, but like, I get it though. Like I think,
well, I mean, listen, you've probably seen it in your profession, guys that all they know is fighting. That's all they know. Either they grew up around it or they got involved in it at a very early age. They retire. You see it in athletes all the time, right? Like football players, basketball players, whatever, all these cats that have been playing for like years, all of that's become their identity. That's all they know. And then now you're asking them to just be a normal, quote unquote, citizen of society, like a society, a member of society. It's like, what does that even mean? Because my society has been very different than your society. And so I think that's the challenge. And so, listen, man, I'm a huge advocate and supporter of a couple different organizations that really focus on mental health. And I think that we have to get people to pay attention to this issue. And we can't just be like, okay, Afghanistan's over, sweep it under the rug. And it's like, no, because you got men and women that are now home for a very long time. Hopefully there's no other wars and conflicts that we have to send them to, but for a long time. And we got to give them the tools, and we got to make it okay that they can talk about whatever it is that they're feeling, they're going through, they're experiencing. Because if not, I hate to say this, man, but it's like, you're just going to see that rate of suicide just climb. And that's fucking sad, man. It's sad when you hear about these guys, these men and women that survive all the shit they survive in war and come home and feel like they're fighting the war by themselves.
Yeah, I think what we're starting to see in my line of work as a fire chief is there is a lot more focus on that now, and I'm hoping it will spill over towards our veterans, because it's been known for years, decades, that the suicide rates of veterans is through the roof.
Yeah.
So now there's a huge focus as a fireman, as police, as in mental health, and giving the resources that are available to them, which is before, it was nobody want to talk about, you want to be the tough guy. Again, that was my parents' generation. Now we're starting to realize the things that we're seeing on our side of things has an effect. It has an effect. And if they were to count suicides for firefighters as line of duty deaths, our line of duty deaths would go from 100 a year to thousands. So
yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah. It's like, but we have to have a balance though, right? Like, listen, I mean, I'm of the mindset of, listen, I love to joke around. I love to clown. I love to, like, comedy is something that's really important to me. Honestly, I've used humor to navigate this world that we all live in and make people that are uncomfortable with talking with somebody that has scars and, or that would have been thrown in jail back in the 60s and 70s because of the ugly law that existed. Like I use humor as a way to get people to be like, yo, I'm cool. Like, I'm down to earth. Like, we can clown, we can have a beer, we could talk about sports, we could talk about life, we could talk about how our kids are driving us insane, whatever, like work, so like whatever. Like, I'm real like that. But I also think there has to be a balance, because I think, when you think of like veterans, you think of like the Vietnam era or anywhere in that space, you think about how we gave them nothing. Like they got the shit into the stick, the way we treated them, the way they weren't welcomed home, no benefits, no resources, nothing. But now when you look at, and I say this even myself, like this generation of vets, they come home and for the most part, what do you not? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Which is cool. And I know there's a lot of people that are gonna be like, yo, that's messed up, JR. You would say that. But what I'm saying is, we have to have like a balance, right? We can't just give these guys everything. We have to give them a little incentive to be like, hey, like, it's that whole cliche story. If you can teach them how to fish versus giving them a fish, like, hey guys, like, at the end of the day, you son of a, get up, like, let's make it happen. We'll do it together. We'll figure it out. But I'm not just going to hand shit out to you, because what you see is a lot of these dudes, now they start bouncing around a nonprofit to nonprofit, just getting free shit. And they just like ride on that. And yet they're not getting taught any skills, any ways to sort of adapt to this new environment in this society. So we have to have a little bit of a balance.
Yeah. To move to that next phase of their life.
Right.
You got to teach them the skills in order to adapt, and, like, just something so they can make a living, to feel a self-worth, to, they need to, I agree with you. They need to be taught something there.
All right. We got real serious here.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I was like, wow.
All right.
Well, here, hold on.
Can we go back to making fun of Stipe?
Let's talk about John and his dating life. It's terrible.
Let's go to something else.
It's absolutely horrendous. It's horrendous.
JR, you mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, like, you're a motivational, inspirational speaker, and you don't like getting put in a box. And then you just said, like, we can go have a beer, watch sports, whatever. So what's your like, how do you unwind? What's your go-to, sports?
Drink?
Like, no, sports. Hey, you answer that one if you want. Like, how do you unwind? Like, what's your sports? What do you do?
Oh, dude. I mean, I love sports. Like, I love sports. Football is my jam. I'm starting to like, baseball. I played baseball growing up. I played it 1 year. I signed up 1 year. Coach was like, you're kind of fast. We can use you like in the outfield and run some bases or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. And it was like, off season of football. And I got hit by a pitch and I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm not doing this. And he was like, but you play football. And I was like, yeah, but you wear gear. Like, you're expected to get hit. That's not the point in baseball. You're not supposed to get hit by the ball. So I quit. But for me, man, football is my jam. I'm a Saints fan, and, LSU fan, college football. And, for me, man, I've like moved into this space of where, like, I just, like, my daughter now, who's playing softball, dude, this whole postseason, like her and I are sitting down, like watching almost every freaking game. And it's so dope because she understands the game now. Like she gets it. She's like watching the pitcher, like, oh, look what that pitcher did. And I'm like, what did he do? Like, I don't even see. What did you see? Like, you know? And so for me, man, I just love before COVID, man, like I would take my daughter and my wife, we would go to New Orleans. We'd cram in a Saturday LSU game down in Death Valley, Baton Rouge. And then, you know, Sunday we'd go to New Orleans and get a Saints game in. And I mean, dude, that's where it's at for me. Sports is like my happy place. I mean, I love all sorts of sports, and I just love sitting down and just kind of watching, you know, incredible athletes do what they do. And I mean, that's just it for me, man. I mean, you know.
Not to mention you got an athletic 9-year-old little girl who's I'm assuming going to continue that, and it's just going to get busier because that's my life. My life is, you know, I watch sports with the kids when I can, but I'm driving from field to hockey rink to whatever, you know, that's, I'd have it no other way. It's
or you know, people stepping on his lawn because he's that guy.
Yeah. Not that guy.
she's like,
no, she's stepping on my lawn. That's awesome. No, yeah, we are. No, I'm the same way, man. I think that's one thing with, you know, when COVID, it was kind of rough because people didn't know what to do. You know, I think sports, no matter if it's, you know, a rivalry or not, I think it brings people together. You know, and unfortunately, John next to me is a Michigan fan, and that's a big no-no in the state of Ohio.
I don't talk about it ever yet. Somehow I get shit on every.
He's actually the best Michigan fan I've ever met. Man, he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He just
even keel.
He's having the best season that he's had in 10 years, and he's not talking about it.
Yep. So, you're not getting excited about it.
It all come crashing down.
That sounds like very much like being a Saints fan, right? Like my wife was like, you know, she's a New Yorker, born and raised, and she's like, yeah, I like the Giants. Okay, I guess the Giants. And I'm like, do you really know? Like, and she's like, no, I mean, I don't know, the Giants, right? And I was like, okay, cool. So I introduced her like to football. And so now I got her like understanding, okay, even if the Saints aren't playing, you're watching Carolina, Tampa, Atlanta, you're watching those squads because they're in a division, right? Like every game there's stakes, right? Even if they're not in our division, they're in our conference, right? Like, so she's like so intense about it now. Like she is like in it. I remember like about 2 years ago, I was at this event and I finished the event and I called her and I was like, hey, just want to let you know, like I wrapped, I'm heading back to the hotel. I'll call you when I get in the car to go to the airport. She's like, oh, did you hear the news? And I was like, and the way she said it, I was like, oh shit, like what happened? Like, oh my God, am I going to have to re-enlist? Where am I going? Like, like what country am I going to now? You know? And I was like, no, what happened? And she's like, the Saints made a trade for Eli Apple. I was like, oh shit. Like that's what you're like. And I was like, wait, who? And she's like, Eli Apple. And I was like, the defensive back from the Giants? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, he's trash. I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, but she's like all into it, dude. But like, I mean, sports is my, like, dude, and it's weird because I stayed a Saints fan. I was born in Louisiana, moved when I was 9, but moved to Arkansas where there's like nothing but the Razorbacks. That's all there is. And I was like, no way in hell am I going to be a Razorback fan. So I was LSU all the way through, Saints all the way through. But baseball and basketball were like up in the air for me, right? Because there was no teams in Louisiana. So of course the 90s, the Braves were always on TBS and, you know, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I might be a Braves fan. And then the Bulls, obviously the Bulls. And I was like, well, I'm a Bulls fan, I guess. But then as I've gotten older, I realized, oh, that was just like a phase that I liked those squads and the players or whatever. But dude, sports is where it's at for me, man. Like, that's just my jam. Every year, I was telling Stipe that every year, my best friend and father-in-law, we would have a tradition where we pick 2 cities and during football season, and we just go like watch a football game in that city just to experience what football is like in that city.
Awesome.
Right?
Oh, it was epic. So I told Stipe, I was like, I had to come to Cleveland.
Well, take care of it. You know that. I got you.
So Baker Mayfield, your guy, where I live in Austin, the high school, like 5 minutes away from my house, that's where he went to school.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So like, during the off season, I don't know if did he show up to training camp like in shape? Was he in shape or not? Like,
yeah,
he was great.
He was working out at the high school, right? He was working out at the high school. I know he did. Like
he was working out across the street from the high school. There's like this taco joint, breakfast tacos. I'm just saying.
I'll be there too.
He got the suicide tacos and he got like 3 of them. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot, dude. I don't know.
Balance.
You should be on a meal plan right now.
Believe me, if he would have come to training camp out of shape, we would have heard all about it.
I think they said he was in
great.
the best. Yeah, he was like in the best shape of his career.
So, JR, like, do you have to go? I know we're on a little bit of a time constraint, so I don't want to, if you want to keep going, we can. You good?
I'm good. That's
very good.
I'm good.
I promised Haley I would check in. So
no, I'm good.
About the sports thing. I got a question for you. So, have you ever been to an LSU game at night? Because supposedly that's like one of the craziest things. And then think about Ed Ogeron deciding to part ways and resigning. So, and then who do they hire?
Wait, LSU coach?
Yeah.
LSU coach. They agreed to resign. He's going to resign at the end
after 2 years after winning a title?
It's crazy. At the end of the year.
Is there more to it?
He's not having a good season.
There's more to it.
That's what I'm saying. There's going to be more.
So, okay. So the first answer to your question, LSU at night. Yes. So the first time I went to an LSU game in Death Valley, because I've gone to LSU when they played like visiting teams or wherever the city. The first time I went to Death Valley was like 4 years ago, and I took my daughter and my wife and my best friend, and they were playing Alabama.
Ooh.
And I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna get the dopest seats. I'm gonna be like right there, like in the first row. It's gonna be an experience. And then we show up late because my wife wanted to go get a fucking beignet in New Orleans, and I was like, no. I want to be in Baton Rouge early, like before when the guys are warming up and this and that. And so we got there late. So I was in a sour, pissy mood because of that. Now she doesn't think that's what happened. That's what happened. That's how I'm gonna stick to it. So as long as we keep this podcast like out of her, like her headphones,
anyway, you're good.
Yeah. So we're good. Watch this shit all of it. This is the one episode that goes viral, and it's only that part. And all of a sudden, like I'm like, so and then Alabama, I mean, just kicked LSU's ass. I mean, like my daughter even makes the joke. She's like, yeah, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that game. We don't talk about that weekend. But as far as Ed, so like Ed, my dude Ed, there is like apparently like after he won the championship 2 years ago, he got like divorced and to his wife that he'd been married to for like 20 some odd years. He got divorced, and apparently he's been like, running around with his shirt off and trying to run into other people's inbox, if you know what I mean. Like he's like he's apparently like, they say like his focus is not on football. It's like on
co-eds.
Yes. Yes. And apparently, because they beat Florida 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And I remember like after the game, here's another moment with my wife. My wife calls me, like our softball team had won a freaking tournament. So I'm like stoked. We're going to lunch with the squad. And she calls me and she's like, hey, real quick. She's like, LSU fired Ed Ogeron. And I was like, what? They just beat Florida. What are you talking about? It was a day later. I was like, what? I was like, no, there has to be more to that. And she's like, I don't know. I told my boy, who's also an LSU fan, he like, everybody was like, what? And then I started like digging in. He started seeing that he was more focused on the other stuff than playing football and whatever. So they just decided that they were like, at the end of the season, we're going to go our separate ways. But I'm bummed, man. Like, I love the dude. Like, I loved homeboy. Like, after he won the championship, and they're like, what are you going to do? I'm going to go home and have a ham sandwich with my wife and somebody else. Like, I love that. Like, I was like, that's my guy right there. Like, I want to go running with him. Luckily, I feel like I could run with him because it feels like he only runs at like that, 5 mile an hour pace, which is a good pace for me. But I'm bummed as far as like who to replace him. Dude, I don't know. I really have no idea who's even out there.
That's one of those jobs, man. That's one of those jobs that you can pull coaches from. That's a pristine job. That's that's a big time.
Guys will leave colleges just to go there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm like, who is like on the map that is not at a like prestige like school or high football school that would be like, oh yeah, that's a great opportunity. I don't even know like Cincinnati. Who's at Florida Atlantic, who's at
who's the guy from UCLA too.
You got UCLA's coach, you got
Cincinnati's coach.
Like that, right? There's a number of them out there this year. You guys are going to end up with somebody.
Yeah, you're gonna get someone good. You'll be fine.
I don't know. I'm just riding on the championship from 2 years ago, man. I talked my wife into going. It was in New Orleans, and I was like, babe, like you don't understand. Like this is the perfect season. Heisman Trophy winner. Like Burrow's doing. There's
no fun fact about Burrows. He came from Ohio State, so you're welcome.
He was the
what?
Yeah, Burrows was from Ohio State.
He was a Buckeye.
He transferred. You're welcome.
That is true. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you.
But the truth is, the Buckeyes were huge LSU fans that year because of Joe Burrows.
Because of Burrow, right?
Yeah, we love the kid. Yep.
Do you see what happened there, JR? Is a couple of OSU fans taking credit for LSU's national championship.
John's still riding high on Michigan's last championship.
Charles Woodson,
do you remember when Michigan lost to Appalachian State? I did.
Oh,
that was my wedding day.
Luckily, I didn't see.
I was in college.
I didn't see that game. I had to hear the score updates, and that was just as bad.
It's funny because like I felt like I rooted for the Wolverines, like the Charles Woodson, Desmond Howard days. Like I actually rooted for him, man.
That's part of the reason why I became such a Michigan fan. I didn't have an influence to which college team to root for, and I just really like those players.
Are you from Ohio State?
Yeah.
Wait, so wait, are you from Ohio?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's weird. There's a sprinkling of Michigan fans.
Yeah,
I had
it's really
weird.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, but a sprinkle is still like, unless you like douse that with a lot of sprinkles, that's still not as much as Ohio.
A few years ago, before my daughter was born, we had a party. I used to have a massive 3,000 square foot barn that was heated, so we had like huge parties, and so we had a Ohio State Michigan party. So we invited a bunch of people. I didn't think anything of it. I'm not kidding you. Just probably about 40 people there. I'm not kidding. Half of them were Michigan fans. I was so pissed. I was
really
so pissed. Yeah, they're all from Ohio.
It's strange. It's a weird. Yeah. It's we're few and far between, but it's
Stipe just surrounds himself with assholes.
Pretty much.
I know.
Pretty much.
That's where his aggression builds up. So that way, when he goes into a fight, he just like unloads everything.
Right?
Like, hey, so his opponent's a Michigan fan.
Well, and one of the terrible things about the Browns sucking for 20 plus years is we now are surrounded by Steelers fans. There are Steelers fans everywhere in Cleveland, Ohio, because there was nobody else to root for, I guess.
Yeah.
Fun fact, my son, who is 10, I gave it 7 years and the Browns sucked all 7 years. So I finally looked at him. I said, you can pick a team. It can't be the Patriots. It can't be the Cowboys, or it can't be the Steelers. He picked the Saints. He's a huge Saints fan now.
No way. So you pretty much said 7 years. If they still suck, then you son can find a new team to root for, or you as well root for this.
I'm a Browns fan, and I've always been an Eagles fan since I was a kid. But I let my son. I gave him some constraints, but I told him, "Whatever, you go ahead and pick whatever team you want."
And he'll be back. He's still young.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
We'll start losing too. So he'll be back.
So he got a Drew Brees autographed picture for Christmas, and then Drew Brees retired, and it was there were some tears involved for him, but I was like, hey, that's life, kid.
Yeah, get over it, suck it up. Jameis is your guy now. Ride that.
He's playing well. Good for him.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You talk about going down to New Orleans a lot. I got a good story. When I was a senior in high school, my family went on a cruise, and the ship left from New Orleans, we stayed in New Orleans the night before. Now I'm 18. My older cousins, they're in their mid 20s. They sneak me into a bar. I can't something Red Rooster or something like that. It was right on the main street there in New Orleans. And I remember,
was it Bourbon Street?
Yeah, we were right on Bourbon Street. And so they sneak me into a bar. We're drinking at the bar. I'm 18. I'm like, this is great. Now, mind you, I'm going to like Mexico and all these other places like the next day, so I'm gonna be able to hang out. But the best part is we come walking out of this place. We see this family with their little kid, and they're, walking there, and the kid's he's got to be 10 years old, whatever. Walks right past, this lady walks out of this bar, pulls her shirt up, and just flashes the whole street right at this 10-year-old. And he literally, whatever he had in his hand, he just turns, looks at her, blank face, drops what's in his hands, and just stares. And
I'm 39. I would do that.
And I know. I'm like, this is my lasting memory of New Orleans. Is just this kid hey, welcome to adulthood.
Actually, it was John. It wasn't a kid. It was actually John doing it, walking out the bar.
As I'm sitting there doing the same thing, from across the street.
He's pushing the kid out of the way. Yo, get out of the way.
Closer look.
Come on, kitty.
My wife the other day says, she's like, we're sitting at dinner and our son, he's like fussing, and she's like, yeah, she's like, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna like wash his face. I'm gonna, put him in his pajamas, give him the boob, and put him to bed. And I was like, damn, that's a good life.
That's a good
I was like,
life.
like, why can't I get that same treatment?
Yeah. Can you put me to bed, please?
Know, right?
I don't need my face washed.
Yeah, right.
I don't need my pajamas. Let's just skip.
I just need a boob.
Yeah. So my wife, she'll be sitting there, just like when she was breastfeeding, she's popping out. I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, this is for yourself. Damn it.
Come on, let's do this.
Yeah, right?
I remember I used to go to New Orleans. Funny, John, you talked about that because as a kid, like I was born in the northern part of Louisiana. So it's a town called Shreveport. And there's all these like, yeah. So there's all these freaking like river boats, right? It's a big casino spot. Like there's this whole like boats up on the river and everything. But I always tell people like it's almost like a suburb of Dallas. Like almost everybody there is like a Cowboys fan. But I was like, okay, cool. The Cowboys are cool in the 90s. The Saints sucked. And I was like, all right, kind of watching. But I was always like an avid like Saints fan. But I remember going down to New Orleans with my mom. We'd go down there often. And same thing. I'd walk around, dude. My head was always on a swivel, like trying to catch a glimpse of something. I was just like, there's so much going on. I'm like this. And I could tell you, I remember my mom, like she a couple times she caught me and she like grabbed my hand, like, come on. Don't look over there. Come on. And I'm like, okay. Like you're trying to like get a sneak peek of something. But I love it, man. Like, I mean, we avoid obviously Bourbon Street with our daughter. We're like, yo, this shit's wild down there. But we do all the other stuff. I tried to talk my wife into going. So years ago, this is where I feel like Ed or John and I would like get along. I went alligator hunting down in Morgan City, Louisiana. This dude is like, the guide is like, the tour guide is like, oh, there's a great place to go have dinner, like blah blah. So we're like, all right, cool, we'll go check it out the night before. We show up, dude, I swear to God, we were in someone's living room. We show up at like a house and literally like they're bringing food out like their kitchen. It's like two tables in there, two round circular tables that probably seat like 4 people. And I'm allergic to shellfish. So I'm like, I definitely can't tell them I have a shellfish allergy. Can you please make sure not to cook it together? Can you like cook it separately? Like they're doing all kinds of shit together.
Yeah,
dude, it was like so sketchy, but the best food ever. Then the next day we go hunt, we get in the boats, we're out in the river, like the swamps. The dudes are putting like raw chicken like on the lines as the bait. Then we're, pull a couple like alligators in, like they're rolling or whatever. Like they give you the gun, you got to shoot them like right here. You can't go any higher because then it's like a metal plate and they're like the bullet will ricochet off. So every time, like if you had an alligator right here, like the boats behind had to move and get behind you just in case the bullet ricocheted off. I was like, yo, this is some gangster shit.
Sketchy right there.
This is some gangster shit. Yeah. So then I remember like getting one alligator in the boat and this thing, I swear to you, was 13 feet long.
Jesus.
I'm in the back of the boat sitting there and I'm just like I'm just sitting there watching, like looking at this alligator, like, yo, this is trippy. That's an alligator.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the tail, like this is my legs. The tail goes like this. Literally just like just slapped my leg. Dude, I almost jumped straight out of that freaking boat. I was like, I literally, my man car was pulled. I was like, it's alive. And the guide is like, dude, chill out. It's not alive. It's just the nerves. He's not alive. It's just the nerves. And I was like, like I was flipping out. So then we stop. We get like they're like, all right, it's lunch. And these dudes like in their nasty, like unsanitary, like hands that have been like touching raw chicken and alligator shit, grab loaves of bread and they're like, okay, here's like sandwiches, here's the bread and here's like the meat to put on. And I'm like, I'm good. I've survived longer without eating. I'm gonna wait till I get back to that house because that house was pretty good actually. Yeah. So then homeboy's like, all right, cool. So, it's lunchtime. Everybody eat up and then, we'll wait here for a little bit, but it's hot. Who wants to go for a swim?
Oh, no,
I was like, a what? And he's like, a swim. And I was like, where? And he's like, right here. I was like, nah, dude, you're bugging, right? And he's like, nope. Took his shirt off. And I was like, dude, there's alligators. There's the bait line is like right there. And he's like, oh, they don't bother you unless you bother them. I said, says who?
Yeah,
says,
right.
like famous
suddenly,
last words.
Yeah, like suddenly you've given a mental evaluation.
Yeah.
On.
It was wild. Homeboy dove in. It was like a Michael Phelps dive. Like he dove in and he's like, like, I mean, dude had the best stroke ever, but it was like, I was sitting there like, yo, we're gonna witness a murder. Like there literally is a murder is about to happen. This dude's about to be eaten alive. Dude made it back in, but you know, those are the people. I always think about that. And as much as like I think everybody would like be so quick to judge those cats, those are the people that would survive. If the fucking Walking Dead came tomorrow, those dudes are surviving. Yeah. I'm the one that's dying, right? I'm the one that's not gonna live. That dude is right there and is gonna be like, I'm good. I'm gonna survive, outlast all of y'all. I'm gonna eat alligator meat every single night. And this bread that has alligator juices and chicken raw juices all over it. I'm good. I'm gonna survive. Right. Dude, it's
protein.
Dude, protein. It's trippy, man. It's trippy. And I think that's what's dope is like for me, I try to like, I don't know, man. I'm always trying to get into some crazy shit. Like always trying to have some fun, wild experiences. Like, you know, like
that's what life should be. That's what
it should be, man. Like skydiving. I'm like quick to jump out of a damn plane. Like I'm just quick to do everything, man.
How did you this is I think the one thing I wanted to ask you. How did you end up I did.
Oh, like Jamie, like you sound
terrible.
Yeah,
all right, I'm out.
The God, man. What happened to Jesus?
You gotta stop.
Well, I think on that story that's great, but yeah. Want to take us out?
Yeah, sure. JR, I gotta thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah.
I know
God bless you too for everything you've done, dude. Seriously. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, man.
All of us appreciate it. This has been an awesome chance to get to talk to you. For everybody listening, where can they find you? Social media, website, podcast, let them know.
Appreciate that, fellas. Listen, man, this was cool. Thanks for having me on and just shoot the shit. This is like a nice break in sort of the routine for me, and where it's like I said, it's all about like all this, you know, structured conversation about stuff. And I love sort of the free flow of this and just shooting the shit. So appreciate you guys. And again, I just want to extend, you know, Stipe and you guys said, thank you for your service. For everyone listening right now that served.
I don't do shit.
Even a family member, I want to say thank you guys as well for your military service. Thank you guys for what you have done. So I know I'm not alone in that, but I mean, to hit me up, I mean, social media, man, that's the where to go on all platforms. I am J.R. Martinez. That's where you pretty much find anything about me. So yeah, man, like just thank you guys. And you know, we'll see what happens in Michigan. You know,
yes, they got a big game. They got a big game against Michigan State coming up. We'll see what happens there.
Let's see what happens this weekend.
But thanks for listening, everybody. You can reach us. We'd love to hear from you at the.jabs.podcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube. Just search Jabs Podcast. Hit the bell for post notifications and subscribe. Wow. And you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Jabs Podcast. You can find Stipe Miocic on all social media platforms at Stipe Miocic. You can find Jamie at Mekalek, Mekalek. You can find me at JP Chewbacca. It's like Chewbacca without the CA. We hate Rick Russo.
You got so good at this.
That was like money, dude.
Right?
That was money.
I keep thinking I'm going to forget something every time.
But you don't.
But I never forget this part.
Even the way you said his last name, like a pro.
Yeah.
I told you. Right. We talked about this earlier. Got to stay on the good side of the wife. I've been over for sauce before. When she makes the sauce, it's the best. So got to stay on the good side. So got to keep doing it. We hate Rick Russo. We are out. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll see you later.
Ciao.